I want to start our panel on opportunities in tech with General Motors and Eaze. And I want to send a special thank you to General Motors and Eaze for sending this top tier talent to serve as our panelists. And we're going to take a quick second to allow them to introduce themselves and tell you a bit about their background. And this is the order they're going to go in. We've got Blair Fambro, who is the Diversity and Inclusion Recruitment Management Strategist at GM. We've got Brittany Shaw, who is Recruiting Operations Manager at Eaze. Jonathan King, who is a System Capability Engineer at General Motors. And last but not least, Mr. Rashad Johnson, who is the Senior Government Affairs Manager at Eaze. So if we could start with Blair. Blair, please tell the people about yourself, how you got to where you are in your career, and don't forget to add a few words about your employer. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. My name is Blair Fambro. I am a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategist with General Motors. So my role and responsibility with the organization is to build recruitment strategies to bring in the top tech talent to our organization with the focus on diversity and inclusion. So I'm very proud to work for an organization that has the initiative and the mission to be the most inclusive organization in the world. So I'm feel that in my seat today, being here for 5 years and being a D&I strategist, I have the opportunity to be able to help the organization fulfill that goal. So I'm very honored to be here to represent General Motors, and also very honored to be able to sit on this panel today. Just a couple of things in regards to my background. I've been in talent acquisition for over 10 years, being able to implement multiple strategies in regards to focus on bringing in and recruiting the best technical talent to any organization. So I'm very proud to be here representing General Motors. Been here for 5 years, and I look forward to this next hour to have a great discussion.
Thank you, Blair. Brittany, why don't you take it away?
Awesome. Sorry, voice. But yeah, I work at Eaze. I've been at Eaze for close to a year now as a recruiting operations manager. My role at Eaze is the focus on, finding top talent to come work for us, sourcing, screening, interviewing, making sure our interview process is structured and inclusive. And that, we're putting our best foot forward when it comes to recruiting for, diversity and underrepresented folks. Before I was a recruiting manager at Eaze, I was also a D&I consultant. So, I just basically put those two together, and that's what I've been doing. Now, before Eaze, I worked at several different companies as a D&I consultant and recruiter, technical recruiter in particular. I worked for a machine learning company at tech. Now I'm in cannabis tech. I've worked for networking companies, just like all over. I started at a recruiting agency, which can be very tough. It's very fast paced and high volume. So that's like where you learn and hone your skills and get your recruiting chops. And then from there, I started working at startups, and I really, really enjoy, finding the top technical talent to work at these companies. In particular, Black and brown folks, women of color. I've made it kind of like my mission. Whatever company that I join, my focus is always to uplift people that look like me and you. So that's my role.
Excellent. Thank you, Brittany. Mr. King, please tell us about yourself.
Yes, thank you. So first, let me say thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to everybody today. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. Glad that this holiday is getting a lot more recognition. Like Kareem said, my name is John King. I am a systems capability engineer for General Motors. I work in our autonomous vehicles department, where I develop advanced technologies for our self-driving technology and autonomous vehicle future. General Motors has our mission is zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. And so, the technology that I develop and work on plays a key role to that. I've been at General Motors for about just over 3 years now, where before I was a system capability engineer, I was a design release engineer for radars. I'm working on GM Cruise robotaxi platform. And then before that, I spent 7 years at a different automotive manufacturer, where I rotated through a rotational leadership program. I got my master's and undergrad in both mechanical engineering, and I developed and launched a level 2 self-driving vehicle or system on the Maserati platform. So I've been in the advanced driver assist system technology for quite some time now. That's really my passion, is future and innovative technology, future and innovative mobility. I really think that this technology has, the potential to change a lot of lives, especially when given the amount of people that die in a year in car accidents and injuries that come from that. And so that's really where my passion lies, and how I've gotten there. And like I said, GM is really taking a leadership role in this technology, in this mobility space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Johnson, please tell us about yourself, sir.
Sure, absolutely. One, thank you so much for having me. This is a great panel with some high-level individuals, so I'm happy to be a part of it. Brittany, hello. Brittany works at Eaze with me, but she actually came on during the pandemic, so we've actually never met in person. So hopefully that'll happen sometime soon. A little bit about me. Prior to working in the tech industry, which was kind of a goal for me a long time, I worked in the public policy realm. And I was able to really kind of see where the money meets the policy, or where the money meets the road, right? And that intersection of how companies and corporations have objectives, and they need those objectives to be activated by folks who are, in power, or who are elected officials. So for me, I've just always understood that, if you're not at the table, you're not going to eat, right? And so for me, it's always been an opportunity to try to drive pipelines and drive connections with not only my network, but to also connect folks that should know each other in spaces that typically are lonely for us. What I currently do is I'm a government affairs manager. So what I basically do is go around the country and try to implement positive cannabis policies for not only our company, but for the broader community. I had the honor of writing the country's first social equity cannabis bill for the state of California, where we were able to implement millions of dollars into cities that had social equity programs, so that applicants could get grants and get fee waivers, and also get the the capital necessary to run a business. And so for me, it's really important to highlight not only our talents, but to also make sure that the money is connected to those talents. And I think it's really important for us to not only leverage our abilities, but also push a hard line when it means getting what we deserve. And so honestly, I use my job and the corporation I work for to fight for what we deserve, unabashedly and without any shame. And I intend to do that until I don't work anymore. But I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really excited to try to, drive connections and connect with all these folks even after this. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you guys for sharing a bit about yourselves. So to everyone who's attending, we have some pre-submitted questions, and we're going to start with those. And in the event that you have a question that you'd like to submit, please use the Q&A function on this application as opposed to the raised hand function. So we'll be watching the Q&A function for any additional questions. But what we're gonna do is just go through the questions that we have, and as we get different questions from the field, we'll switch over to those. So the first question I want to ask, particularly in light of what Rashad and Jonathan said about their jobs not just having a tech aspect to it, but also a social responsibility or a greater awareness responsibility to it, either it be through saving lives or through correcting historical inequities. How would you define tech? It seems like the notion of it is expanding.
Who is it? Who do you want to first?
I don't like to put people on the spot, so if anybody is touched by it, please feel free to.
Go ahead, Rashad.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think technology is essential to sustainability in life at this point. I think the level of technology that connects us to not only our family, but to our daily lives is so critical. And I think that African Americans having to, develop a dual consciousness and have this duality, I think our perspectives benefit the tech community much more than people ever imagined. And I think the pandemic even enlightened folks on our ability to give additional perspectives and additional kind of theories that I think, because we're not often in those rooms, people don't understand how valuable those things are. I was on a panel before this where basically you go into these tech companies as an African American, you explain to their company, you guys are leaving so much money on the table, but not looking into our communities and outreaching to the talent that we have in order to build their company. So I think, it's critical to us. And as Brittany can tell you, the tech community, the Black tech community in the Bay Area is very, very small. And a lot of folks feel siloed and they feel kind of isolated. And I think that because of that, we don't understand our value or the weight that we can pull in these realms or in these rooms. And I think, because of the dire straits or the things that we saw, with George Floyd in front of us, although those things have been happening before and after, I think a lot of folks realize that they need companionship and friendship and people that look like them in these companies. But specifically in these tech companies where everything's so data and number driven, the human element is often stripped away. And I think that African Americans are naturally charismatic and actually, naturally want to bring people in. And so I think it's been an opportunity for us to bring the tech community closer into what we're dealing with, but also, enlightening them on the talents that we have that can ultimately serve them and their objectives.
Excellent.
And tech is so, like, when you ask somebody to define tech, that's like saying, how do you define the world, right? Tech is so broad. It's hard to, put a clean cut Webster definition on it and really put it inside of a box, right? Like, we're using tech right now on this virtual platform. We use it more and more every day, and it only gets more and more advanced, right? And really, that's the job of engineers and society, right? Is to make the world a better place, more efficient, more optimized. And honestly, tech is the reason I became an engineer. I've always wanted to know how things worked. From a kid taking apart VCRs and putting them back together, TVs, remote control cars, etc. Okay, how does this wheel spin? What is making this wheel spin? Building motors and really, I kind of started in tech as a gearhead, working on my car, and that's kind of how I got interested into it. And really, I just, my inquisitive nature had all these ideas. Okay, what if this system had this, or what if this car had this, or what if this product had that? And that's really what drove me to become engineers, because I wanted to learn and understand how to make something better and how to make a new invention, right? And so, like I said, for me, it's too hard to just define tech and put it in a box. But if I had to, I would just say it's any product or service that optimizes or that makes something better. So that's the best I can do to try to define it.
Okay, awesome. So Brittany and Blair, with this expanding notion of tech, how has that changed how HR professionals are looking for people that can fit into the tech environment? Are you looking for humanities majors now? Is it no longer just limited to people with computer science or engineering backgrounds?
Yeah, I can definitely say from my perspective, it's not just limited to individual with computer science backgrounds, but it is also just expands the way we use technology in regards to network, in regards to how we outreach and network with individuals. As a recruiter on a daily basis, I'm dealing with people who are looking for tech jobs every day, who may have certification, who may just want to network and learn about the organization. So you think about some software technology, you think about LinkedIn, you think about Handshake and how we are able to connect and engage with those candidates. These are individuals that's following our company. These are individuals that are looking for mentors in technology. And I feel like when I have that dialogue with those individuals and I share their passion, and also individuals who are happy to be minority African American, who has a passion about technology and doesn't know the ins and outs of how to connect with these individuals across the U.S. At a high level in regards to, hey, you want to move to Michigan? Do you want to work in Austin? Do you want to work in any other location across the United States? And being able to use technology has been a great outlet to be able to engage with these individuals. And again, even what Jonathan said, even this platform, this is allowing me to share my voice. And as students are listening to this, they have an understanding of how to network and what tools and what technologies can I use to reach out to these companies or these individuals that are sitting in these seats today. So that's pretty much how I'll say technology has been great from an HR perspective.
Okay, great. We got a couple of questions from the chat, but I want to let Brittany answer this question if she had anything she wanted to add.
I mean, I agree with everything Blair said. I just want to add that, yeah, technology has expanded the horizon for people to be able to work in tech. Now, you can find people, like you said, from all over the US and the world, and they can work on a distributed team. So it opens up the opportunities for Black and brown candidates and women, because, like Rashad said, there's not a whole lot of, Black, in particular, technologists in the Bay Area. Maybe we have the most, but there's still but there's still just not enough to fill, all these positions in the Bay Area alone. So just the fact that, you can search using technology, you can search all over the world for people. That alone has changed the game.
Okay. So we got a really good question from Chloe about how can we do a better job of removing the bias in technology that impacts diverse communities. But I also want you guys I want to modify that question a little bit and also get back to a point that Rashad made about sort of siloing and the inherent sort of isolation that communities of color exist or they have to deal with in these communities. So if you could talk about like what it means to sort of break down that institutional bias, but also what it looks like to create opportunities for us to come together more closely in these areas.
Well, I think you first break the bias by understanding that you ain't created, so it's not your truth, right? Those biases are curated by people trying to protect their own interests and keep us at a certain way out of competing with them. So I think that's a huge part of bias, specifically in tech. But I also think if you're not educating people about who you are and what your community represents, they'll have their own idea. And I think it's really important for folks to own that responsibility and speak truth to power. And I think if any time is more appropriate than ever is now to speak truth to power and really make folks understand how they're framing your community in the eyes of the company. As Brittany is aware, biases in technology are crazy. The lack of money these black run companies get from VC firms, women, or just black men in general is disrespectful, based off the fact that we know most of this country is driven off of our ideas and the culture that we've produced and provided for folks, right? So I think folks gotta say that, right? When you're in the room and someone's telling you the opposite of what you know is the truth or the belief in yourself, you gotta say that, and they gotta be uncomfortable. They gotta get red. They gotta feel like when they get on the BART or when they get in the car, they feel like something shook them, right? Because we often have to feel that all the time. And so I think the best way to remove a bias or destroy a bias is to directly hit it head on and help folks or lead folks to unravel why they have those biases, right? Because oftentimes it's either based on ignorance or just racism. But either way, you should know. And if there's some room to kind of fix that bias or to redirect it in a more positive light, then I think we're all equipped to do so and to equip people and educate them. I think a lot of folks don't understand that we have to re-educate a lot of people on how to treat us. And if we're not willing to do that work, we'll continue to kind of, it's not our job, but if you're going to be in these spaces, sometimes you got to fine tune it for you best you can. And I think that means addressing hard, uncomfortable conversations as early and as often as you can.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I also think it's not just. Oh, go ahead.
You have to recognize that a bias exists, right? Like, and put in systematic policies to be able to try to remove that bias. Like, for example, when you're interviewing candidates, are the interviewers, is there a diverse interviewer in the room? Are there a diverse, team that are evaluating all these candidates? Who are even bringing in the candidate pool? We've seen and heard of studies, and I've even been a part of it where in my past as a recruiter, to where names have gotten thrown out that sound ethnic or racial or international. And so you really have to develop these systems, when you're reviewing these candidates to be able to remove that bias out of the process. And sorry for cutting in there, Brittany, go ahead.
It's all good. I was just going to add that, it can be difficult when you're the only Black person in the room or in your company. So I would say it's also the responsibility of your, community, your workplace, and the hiring people that hire like me to make sure that, it's not just one Black person representing the whole company. Like, that's an issue. And I think that those when it happens like that is ripe for biases. But when you have more than one of us and a plethora of people of color from different backgrounds, socioeconomic and otherwise, then, that alone just naturally, I think, will also, help to eliminate bias. Having more than one me.
Okay.
One thing I can add to that is the funny thing about biases is some people are not even aware that they have certain biases also, and it comes from training. You know, as a recruiter and as I've worked in this industry for quite some time, there's been times where I've had two resumes. One is identical. One went to a certain university that's for minorities. The other is more of a historical white institution, and they will look at their resume and look at the name, and sometimes they'll just have some type of bias towards one university, or just have some favoritism towards the university because they're an alumni there, or their son or someone who they're married to went to that university, or even having sororities on their resume. They kind of say, you know what, I want to deal with this individual because this individual has a background which is a reflection of me. And you're bringing in the same people that's a reflection of yourself, and then you're not building a diverse workforce. You're not thinking about outside of the box in regards to, hey, this person went to Howard, this person has this GPA, this person is definitely a great candidate. You're thinking about bringing in people as a reflection of yourself, which has been an ongoing issue in corporate America for quite some time. And I'm glad to see that a lot of companies now are focused on diversity and inclusion in regards to thinking outside of the box, seeing the benefits of forging relationship with these historical Black institutions, and seeing that we're able to bring in the great and the best talent to the organization as well. So I think it all comes from corporate training, having that uncomfortable conversation and discussion, and also making sure that everyone has the same equality and opportunity for each other. And as Jonathan also stated, that who's interviewing? Do you have a diversity of candidates? Is it all males interviewing? Is there men and women, and also someone who's a minority individual on that interview panel, because they have different dialogues or different way of thinking or different way of different perspectives when they're interviewing someone or having a dialogue with someone during the interview process. So it comes from an education perspective when you think about diversity and inclusion from that aspect.
Okay. I actually want to jump to another question in the Q&A. It's from Brooke Sinclair, and it essentially boils down to each of you represents an internal effort to change. What do you do, or do you ever find an instance where you need external assistance to make sure that your company is being progressive and moving forward and implementing some of these changes that are so important to you? I think we should probably start with Blair or Brittany for that one.
Yes, definitely. Some companies, I don't want to name any companies, yeah, because that could be kind of negative. But yeah, there are certainly companies that are resistant to change. And, sometimes you need like an outside organization, or like with me working in recruitment, it helps to work with diversity organizations and job boards and platforms. And sometimes they can do the work that I can't, hey, there are, people of color in technology out there, and we have them. So, that's not a good enough excuse as to why you don't have enough Black and brown people or women in management positions at your company. So I definitely think that that sometimes you do need external assistance, but I don't think that you should remove yourself from the equation. I mean, especially someone in my position, I can't just let go. I always have to be a part of the conversation, and making sure that things are running smoothly. But I think that when you say resistance, it doesn't always seem like it doesn't. It's not aggressive resistance. That's the thing. It's kind of like subtle. And sometimes you question yourself, is it, you can't tell if it's true bias and they're really resisting, or maybe your idea isn't right. So I think sometimes you do need the help of somebody else too, to kind of tell you, no, actually you're right. You're on the right track, and the company has issues that need to be addressed. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely can say I agree. There's been situations where I work for other organizations, and I even recommend that, having someone come in outside of the organization from a consulting perspective, be able to come in with fresh ideas and not stuck on the way we do things. There's always leaders who has an idea of this is how we've done this. This has always been the process, and this is the best way to do it. But when you have someone, maybe a third party, come into an organization who specialize in, non-biases, who specialize in the best efforts in regards to how we execute things, that's always been beneficial, because you should have someone with a clear mind who's not just dedicated to the employees, but not just dedicated to the corporation, but just dedicated to fairness and equality. So that always helped. And every time I was in that seat where I was able to see a third party come in, that definitely did help your organization think and not do things non-traditionally, I think it's always important to think, and that's what I think about. Thinking outside of the box. You're not just stuck on what you're doing internally. You're using different resources and different expertise and making your environment better. So that's something I definitely highly recommend.
Excellent.
And what last summer's a summer of social unrest and injustice, it caused everybody to kind of take a deeper look, right? As, corporations and everything. I asked before companies started making this statement, a group of my colleagues, I said, hey, do you think companies or corporate America will start speaking out against police brutality and justice? And really the answer was a resounding no, almost laughable that I would even ask that question. But when you start seeing company, because in the history, every corporations and companies have been staying quiet, and so when companies and corporations started speaking out against it, it kind of was like a beacon of hope, right? And so what I think it causes a lot of people to a lot of companies to take a look inside. Okay, yeah, we've had diversity and inclusion initiatives, but what are the statistics? How have they improved? Have they improved every demographic and category? And when you see the data and the statistics that say that it hasn't, okay, that lets you know what we've been doing hasn't been working, and we have to change something.
Excellent. So I wanted to actually ask some specific questions about product. So Jonathan, I'm going to come right back to you. You mentioned earlier how you've been able to. You've talked about how the products that GM produces, particularly because of your company's tripartite goal of the 3 zeros. Can you talk specifically about how reducing traffic fatalities, how reducing emissions, like what do you think those specific initiatives, how will they benefit the Black community or communities of color more broadly?
So first off, when you talk about emissions, right, you can look at the lower income communities and some of the communities that Black people dominate, and those more than likely are more often than not have worse air quality, right? And so as well as those communities also typically drive older cars, cars that pollute more, and the air quality, right? And so when you have zero emission cars, that'll trickle to those communities, the air quality will get better. And then when you do have better air quality, you'll have better health on the people that live in those areas, right? And we all are aware of the inequalities in healthcare. And so it's kind of like a trickle down effect to having zero emissions. Now, when we're talking about vehicle safety and zero crashes, once again, that'll improve, people not having to go to the hospital or the urgent care. People without insurance that gets into a car accident, they may not be able to repair their vehicles, but if their vehicle never gets into an accident, then you don't have those problems. So that also is another benefit to the Black community, as well as specifically here in Detroit, right? Our public transportation, it's no secret that it's not top notch. A lot of times you have to drive to wherever you want to go. I mean, this is the Motor City, right? And so that's a lot of times a barrier for people trying to get to work or have the better jobs is like a transportation. So when you have these robo taxis the goal is to bring down the cost of transportation. Once again, that'll also improve the Black community as well as every community. So when you look at the initiative, the zero crashes, zero emissions, zero congestions, I think that really has the ability to improve our community.
Okay, and I forgot to attribute the credit for that question comes from Mr. Daniel Wallace. As long as we're talking about specific product impacts, I want to talk about ease for a second. Not just in the product itself, but the delivery mechanism and your business model as a whole. Can we talk for a second about how your approach to the business, including your social advocacy, you expect to impact and improve the lives of Black communities and communities of color more broadly?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to jump in. As you do know, Eaze is a cannabis technology platform that also delivers cannabis. So we've completed 8 million deliveries in the state of California alone, and we'll be coming to y'all in Michigan real soon. So I'll send you some credits. But I will say that, so again, the war on drugs is the foundation of anything related to cannabis, right? Because the reality is we are part of the prison industrial complex, which keeps those big corporations quiet from speaking out on that brutality, right? It's all a cyclical thing. And I think our company understands that more than a lot. And so one of the things that we do is we created a social equity marketplace. So this is basically an opportunity for African-American owned cannabis companies to be on our marketplace, which is the biggest in the state. We provide them with preferential financing and payouts for their products. and they have their own basically shelf. And what we've seen from the data is that folks love buying social equity, socially competent, conscious products. And we've made close to $7 million off those products in the last, I believe, year and a half. And so for me, that is reparation type economic stimulation that we deserve, right? If we're not seeing money in the pockets of our people, everything is just an idea. And so for us, it's really be able to put our money where our mouth is. But really, what we've seen from all of those folks who've been involved with Eaze is that they've been able to grow further than we could even think that they were in such a short amount of time with that constant capital infusion, making their dreams a reality. And so for us, it's about giving people of color every opportunity to utilize not only the bandwidth, but the access we have in terms of getting products to people's hands, but more importantly, offering all of our expertise in policy and in finance to drive positive social equity legislation around the country. A lot of folks, and as you guys know, when we're fighting for what we deserve, resources oftentimes is the biggest kind of barrier in order for us to kind of get the voice heard or get our businesses off the ground. And so for me, I think to whom much is given, much is required. So there's just no way that I could ignore my broader community and their financial and or social goals and not utilize my acumen and skill set to kind of push those along the line. And plus I want to make my mom and my dad proud. What's up, Brittany's son? But yeah, so I think for us, it's putting our money where our mouth is and being able to show tangible examples of us stimulating the Black economy and not doing it just for ourselves, but doing it for them and not expecting anything in return.
Excellent, excellent. I wanted to, so we've danced around these sort of hard criteria. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the qualifications, skill sets, or experiences that students can get now. So when they're looking to come to you as interns, as employees, as participants in your business, these are the skill sets that you're looking for when you're looking to make hiring decisions. So I think Blair and Brittany, because they are going to have the just number of reps at looking at qualifications, will be the best folks to answer these questions. But Rashad and Jonathan, because you guys are interacting with the actual folks who are in the business, I want to make sure that you talk about some of the qualifications that you think are valuable as well, not just for hiring, but for good partners that you're working with. So let's lead off with Blair and Brittany, where you guys are talking about sort of that first level screen. And then Jonathan and Rashad, is after we get through that first level screen, start talking about what's good in a coworker, what's good in a partner.
All right, perfect. So I can go ahead and go first in regards to what I've looked for. With my time here at General Motors, I've had the pleasure of helping bringing in talent from an early career perspective in regards to internships and also entry-level positions. So a lot of the things I look for, and sometimes with students who are looking for internships, of course, they're not going to have that experience starting off. So primarily what I do look for is I do understand what is their concentration, what is your area of study, what university you attended. But I also like to know, what they do in regards to curriculums, your schoolwork. Have you led any projects? How do you work in a team, in a collaborative environment? One of the things that I've always said to students is when you speak with a recruiter or you speak with an organization starting off looking for an internship, think about the 90-10 rule. 90% of what you do right now is going to be communication and your passion. 10% is going to be the technical aspect of what you do before getting into a big organization. So a lot of the things that we look for those engineering degrees, IT degrees, anything from that perspective when it comes to alignment with STEM. But when I speak with someone, I like to hear that passion about the desire. Did you do your homework on the company? Do you follow the company on social media? Do you understand the product? Why do you want to join this organization? Does this align with your future career goals? That's pretty much the skills and the background I look for when I engage with someone. So when I do connect with someone and have that one-on-one discussion and I hear that passion and that desire and they've done their homework about the organization, those are the top people that I'm sending over to the hiring manager to say, give this person an opportunity. I think he'll be a great fit for the organization. They understand the automotive industry. They have passion about what they want to do, and pretty much is pretty much all the skills that I'm looking for when I'm engaged with someone for those type of positions.
I agree. Same here when it comes to early career university recruiting. So since he already spoke on that, I'll speak more on when companies want someone a little bit more experience, and you may not have as much experience. I think a good place to start. I mean, I started at an agency, and I'll say that, like, if you are interested in getting into tech, and you find that a lot of companies are saying, "Oh, we want you to have a certain number of years of experience already."
Get on my bed.
But I'll do it in this. Yeah, so a lot of times they want you to have experience already, even for jobs that are just like, like first level, second level. I've noticed. So it can be a good thing to actually connect with a recruiter at an agency. Now, it might be your first year or 6 months, because you might just do 6 months and be able to move on to a full-time job, because that happens. It might be rough. I mean, working for an agency, it can be rough and very daunting. But it's a really great way to get your feet like wet in the industry, get started. And, a lot of companies appreciate the fact that you have some experience, even if it's, through an agency. I mean, that's firsthand experience. So I would recommend for anybody that is having trouble finding like entry-level positions, for you to actually connect with a recruiter at an agency and try to get in that way. And I think another thing that you can do is, like, if you don't have the technical skills, but you can't, of course you may not have time to go back to school. There's so many things happening. I've actually worked with like non-traditional schools, like coding camps that offer like a 3-month, sometimes 6 weeks, of programming. And then, you don't have to pay up front. You just pay them after you land a job. And a lot of companies, technology companies in particular, work with these training camps, and they'll have like a pipeline of people coming through from the coding camp, training organizations to, the actual company. So I think those are two, ways that you can get into tech. Now, as far as like what like the companies are looking for, all the companies I've worked with, of course, it'd be nice to have experience, but if you don't, then there are other ways to show that you have the chops, whether that be getting certifications, or explaining what you can do, even though it hasn't been done in a production environment. If you have your own website, if you do freelance, I mean, I think that like even doing special projects are very helpful to breaking into the industry.
Yes, I think Brittany and Blair touched on a lot of it. But in addition to like, I've been fortunate to be able to recruit for the last 10 years as kind of a side job. And, in addition to asking why GM, why automotive, okay, what aspect of automotive, right? We're so broad and so glad. And we want to understand, like, I'll ask a question like, what is your favorite car and why, right? Mm-hmm. And really the biggest skill that I think is important when you're looking at candidates for internships is, okay, what are your communication skills? Do you have a confident humility? Are you willing to learn? Are you involved in the Baja SAE at your university? Do you have hands-on experience with events or project management, or are you in a leadership position in some of your extracurricular organizations? So those are some of the things. And like Brittany said, some of the e-learning platforms like Udacity and Udemy, they offer hundreds of different classes you can take, even some of them for free or at a very affordable price. So, did you go that extra mile to try to separate yourself from some of your peers? So that's some of the things I think that students can do that are looking.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I think so. Just like Jonathan, if I get into a job or any place I'm working, I'm trying to recruit partners, friends, family, anyone that I know will do the job, but will also, add value. And so for me, if I hear an opportunity, you can ask Brittany. I'm sending resumes, emails, whatever I can send, like holla at them. But I think it's really important to just be confident, understand that you're working towards something and it's not going to happen overnight, but be confident in understanding that no matter where anyone drops you in, you'll be able to survive and sustain and actually thrive. I think a lot of us struggle with kind of like imposter syndrome. These big companies, we go in there and sometimes we don't feel like we deserve to be there. And I think that people can read and feel that from you. And so I think, outward facing, you got to really act like you've been there and act like you're supposed to be there. And also I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think I would be able to merge into tech. Like I was working in public policy, but I also knew that I always wanted to be on cutting edge stuff. and I didn't think I could. And then I just started putting the work in, and they started finding me. Like, people say in the NFL, if you got talent, they'll find you no matter what college you're at, D3 or no college, right? And I think that's kind of what people have to really understand. If you've got talent, they will find you, and shoot your shot, right? I'm always proud to see kids who, are not proud, but I like to hear kids say, like, listen, I know this may be a long shot, or maybe I don't have the necessary, experience, but I'm willing to put in the double time and the extra work to prove that I can do that. And so I just think just always have a flexibility and a confidence, and know that whatever you want to do or want to achieve, it's appropriate and you can do that.
Awesome. So Jonathan and Rashad, I'm not going to let you go quite yet. I want you two to talk about what it means, what you're looking for in good coworkers. Like, what is a good teammate? When you're in the trenches working on a project, what do you like to see in your coworkers?
I like to see somebody who, is a good team player by being, proactive, right? Don't always wait until, okay, you have to be directed. I don't want to have to hold your hand every step of the way, or I don't want you to see that you don't have your work done when we're going into a meeting. Try to be as proactive as possible, and really be open and honest about, okay, that you can do this task, or that you're going to struggle with this, or you need help with this. I like to look for coworkers who aren't too proud or prideful to ask for help. And really just being open and being flexible, right? Because sometimes, especially in engineering, you need to burn that midnight oil to hit those deadlines. If we have something due the next day, and we know we can't go home at 5 o'clock, or we need to burn, I said, well, I don't want to hear any excuse, because we knew this deadline was coming up and we planned for it. Let's work extra. So really, like, say, flexible, being open, and really good communication skills, and being proactive.
All right, excellent.
Yeah, I think that grit, right? Like, I think grit is the best thing for me when it comes to a coworker. Someone that's willing to roll up their sleeves, and again, like Jonathan said, burn the midnight oil to achieve the objectives. I hate excuses, right? And I also hate excuses when I know the answer could have been, you could have just put more time in, right? And so I try to just, a gritty, empathetic coworker is always what I look for. Someone who understands all that you've got on your plate, and then also someone who's willing to take some off your plate if they think it adds value to the overall goal of the team. I work in policy, and we've got a team of consultants that I basically manage in different state legislatures. And like Jonathan also said, they know that if I'm starting asking them questions on things that we've talked about, they know that they're behind, right? And so I like folks to get ahead of the curve and kind of send me what I should be already asking them, so that I know that we're all kind of in a proactive spirit where the trust is there, right? The trust that this person is not going to drop the ball, I think, is the best and most critical element of a teammate. But I think that trust is developed by folks being proactive and not having to be asked to do the right thing or to impact the team positively.
Okay, awesome. So we've talked about what it means to get in. Let's talk for a second about how to maintain success. Everyone that I know that's had any measure of success has a mentor or someone who's looked out for them at some point. So I'd like you guys to talk about what it means to be a mentor and what it means to find a mentor. And if you have a good story about your mentor, please feel free to share it.
Yeah, I can answer that one from my perspective. I always reflect on this from time to time. When I started off in the beginning of my career, I didn't have a mentor. I felt that I was pretty arrogant. I felt that I was a know-it-all because I was being successful early on in my career. And then when I started to struggle in regards to networking and struggle to forge certain relationships and struggle to just do certain things to move up in the company, I always had a mentality of, just put your head down and do your work, and then maybe you'll get recognized. But it's not about just doing your task. It's also about how do you work well with others? What is your reputation? What did you do to make sure the process has changed, and how do your coworkers see you? Are you just trying to be competitive, or are you actually in trying to make everyone else succeed around you as well as a great coworker? And in the middle level of my career, and I decided to get a mentor just to struggle with some of the things I've struggled with. I struggled with at one time in my career. I struggled with public speaking. This panel is something I probably would have ran from back a couple of years ago, because I didn't want to have something I knew I struggled with. So I think if my mentor a couple of years ago put me in certain situations to have me do join panels, have me do public speaking, have me do presentations in front of a large organization. And I was like, wow, okay, once I started getting that encouragement from my mentor and they put me in certain situations, like, wow, I could have done this a long time ago. This could have been something that was a hindrance to my career, public speaking or not having a mentor early in my career. So now as I have a mentor, I have more than one mentor. They help me with certain things in regards to just how to network, how to build relationships, and how to challenge myself on a day-to-day basis. And I highly recommend, if you're starting in your career at early career talent, or if you're starting in mid-level or even a senior level resource, it is critically important to have a mentor because they're thinking outside of the box and thinking about things that you may not think of from your perspective. It will definitely help you day to day in regards to just what you do at your job, and also just how you navigate and move around within corporate America. Even from a diversity perspective, I have mentors who happen to be African American, and I also have mentors who are not African American because I want to understand both sides of the equation and how I can think and add that to my skill sets as a professional. So definitely highly recommended to get a mentor, even more than one. It's helped me in my
great points. And to piggyback off that, mentors have helped remove roadblocks and any barriers, help resolve and talk through the thought process for when conflicts arise, and help with career plan and trajectory, and really just help increase network. Mentors are vital, but I also think being a mentor to others are vital, and really passing along those lessons and telling other people what you wish people told me or told you. You know what I mean? And I have you said a story about a mentor. I have a great story about one of my mentors who's a mentor of mine at GM. I had an interview coming up the following week for a promotional position. He worked at the plant, and he got off late at, I think, 6 p.m., drove about an hour to the tech center to where I was at, and sat down with me for an hour and a half to make sure I was prepped and prepared and ready, and went through every single potential interview question to make sure my answers were at a high level and up to par. So I really love that mentor, and that really helped me get the position that I am in now. And so like I said, mentoring is very valuable.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll hop in. I think mentorship is extremely powerful. It's also a function of being able to have a mentor is a function of humility. Kind of understanding I don't know everything, and there's people out there that can help guide me and lead me in the right direction that maybe my ego or pride won't. So I think mentors is extremely important. And back to Blair's point, I think having a diverse set of mentors is extremely important. You want to know how it looks from each side, right? Otherwise, you're going to be ill-equipped, or you're going to be heavy-handed on one side and be oblivious of a whole nother perspective. And I think also having spiritual mentors, like when you're working in high stress, high production situations, you don't just need people to help you talk about work. You need to talk about life, right? And the issues that you face and the balance, making sure that you have a healthy work-life balance. I think that's extremely important. I think, again, having therapists, they can be a mentor too, as you work these stressful jobs where sometimes you don't feel that you're being, things aren't positive, or you don't feel like you're being heard, or you don't feel like there's movement or progression in whatever you're doing. I think having folks that can give you principles and functions for you to work through those things to keep a positive outlook are extremely essential. And I think, again, to Jonathan's point, your network is your net worth. Mm-hmm. And if you're not willing to get over yourself and reach out to folks that can ultimately impact you in a positive way, you won't attain all the things that you want. And so I think, mentorship is so critical. And I see to whom much is given, much is required. And so from my perspective, it's just as important to mentor little kids and younger folks who, don't see examples of people like us on a daily basis, or maybe they do and just want to hear from a perspective of folks that aren't their parents or someone related to them, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's just extremely important in kind of, reaching out for folks to help you. But I think we're in very blessed positions, all of us, to be able to really impact a lot of folks. And it, often takes one good conversation or one good sit down with somebody you never know that really, drives a positive trajectory for their life. And so if I'm in any position to do that, or if anyone's in that position to do that for me, I'm jumping at those opportunities.
Also, being a mentor looks great on your resume. It helps to get a job. Honestly, like when I started at agencies, I was working with, like I said, the non-traditional schools, and I mentored at Hack the Hood, which I absolutely love them. They're great. And yeah, I did a lot with, helping them fix resumes and, and if there was anything that anybody needed to reach out, always there. And that's something that also I was able to put on my resume. resume. So, like being a mentor also is good for you as well. I've had lots of mentors, I would say, throughout the years that they're more informal. And I would have to say that the best mentor I had was an older white man, because like he was like told me like, hey, like you're not making what you're supposed to be making. Like, there's recruiters out here that make this much and that much, like that I wasn't aware of. And like he introduced me to Toastmasters. I was also afraid of public speaking till I started doing Toastmasters. So anybody that has a fear of public speaking, please utilize Toastmasters if there's one in your area, because it's like a very great organization. And you'll meet mentors through Toastmasters as well. So there's that. But overall, what everybody said is 100%. I just wanted to add that it also can look really good on your resume as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna, unless anybody wanted to add to the mentor point, I'm gonna ask one more question, and then I'm gonna give each of you a minute to sort of wrap up with a key takeaway point you want everybody to have. So I'm telling you that so you can think about it. I know you guys have a ton of wisdom and knowledge and experience to impart, and it's tough to distill it into a minute, but I want to make sure you all get the opportunity to make sure you drop your last gem before we switch over to the general networking session. Okay, so the last question. As you progress through your careers, there are probably some instances where you ran into pitfalls that you just didn't see coming, be it because it was a hidden hazard, or because it was a normative issue, or just a sort of practice that you weren't aware of. Are there any hidden practices or hidden pitfalls that you think college students, early career professionals need to be aware of that you'd like to sort of caution them about now?
Know your worth.
Say more about that.
Yes, don't let, like, even if you work for a company, and I agree, like sometimes you do have to burn the midnight oil. Sometimes, you have to work late, but like I'm a single mother. Like sometimes I don't have the ability to do so. And I would say, don't be hard on yourself. If you're working your 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, that's all the hours that you really need to put in. If that's all that you can do, as long as you working your full hours, I would say that, because I found myself when I started just like overcompensating, and I would say I was working harder and not smarter. So, know your worth, know your time, how much your time is worth, and then determine how much, time you need to put in or want to put in to get things done. Because sometimes these managers, these companies will have you, working really hard, but they don't always care about you the way that you care about them. So know your worth.
Don't be afraid to speak up in establishing your worth, right? When you're feeling overworked, speak up and speak out. Hey, ensure you have that work-life balance. Don't be afraid to take that mental health break. And the biggest thing I'll say is be intentional about the experiences that you want to have and the opportunities that you want to take. Don't wait for doors to open, bust them down.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rashad.
Oh, I was going to say, intentionality. I think that's the critical element of anything that you want to achieve, right? And so I think, again, one, don't psych yourself out of opportunities that you don't even know, because don't walk yourself away from something that you want, I think is extremely important. And I also think it's just about being flexible and just remaining humble and understanding that humility has really never, ever hurt anyone's case. And so if you can kind of exude that in all interactions as you climb, I think you'll rub people the right way, and people will want to do things for you rather than you even having to ask for them. And I think that's an incredible point. And then I think another part as a young person is don't always think the cash in hand is going to be as good as the cash that's going to happen long term. So sometimes you got to put in some work and take some reps and take some L's, right? And take some lumps and endure some things that you feel I should be compensated for. And then what I've seen and what's happened to me is I put in that work to show my value before I was valued with pay. And then they give me exactly what I want plus more, right? Because they saw that this person is committed to doing a good job, regardless of the carrot that we dangle in front of their face. In terms of salary and or opportunity. So I think, flexibility and intentionality are extremely important.
Yeah, just one quick thing I would like to add is just as you're starting your career, starting your first job as an early career professional, is be your authentic self. You know, as much as you may love technology, we know in technology there is a gap in regards to minority professionals within technology, and you're striving so hard to fit in with an organization or fit in with a group of individuals that works within the organization, and you may not be able to relate to some of the things that you can relate to someone else on a daily basis, and you're going to come to work every day not enjoying what you do, no matter how much you love technology, if you can't be your authentic self. So do what you can do to be your authentic self, build relationships, work, join employee resource groups if those organizations, and most large organization does have employee resource groups, so you can navigate and network with individuals that you can bounce ideas off of as well. So just make sure you be your authentic self. You're not going to be happy within your environment unless you are your authentic self. And that's something I dealt with started off in my career. And I definitely think that once I started to be my authentic self and being who I am on a daily basis, definitely helped me, strive in my career. So just make sure you do that starting off.
Yeah, real quick. And when you don't have to learn or think about, who you're going to be at work, it allows you to focus on professional and personal growth and development and being able to do your best work. A lot of times in tech, we're the only Black person in the room on a team in a meeting, and you have to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And the more you're in that position, the more you get comfortable with it, the more you're able to learn how to relate to people who don't look like you, who aren't from the same background. And that will only help you and grow your career long term.
Excellent points. Thank you all. So I want to turn it over to you guys again and let you sort of make your closing statements. I think we can run a little bit over, so don't feel like you have to rush yourselves too much. But the final little tip you would give to anybody who's at the start of their career trying to make a pivot necessarily, just whatever you would want them to walk away from this panel with to make sure that they fully understand the opportunities that are before them. So whoever wants to go first, I don't like to put people on the spot.
One tip is just make it short and sweet for me. Just set a goal for yourself. Set up expectations. There's something you want to do. Make sure you drive and do it. When you start in your career, there are going to be roadblocks. There are going to be a lot of things that you don't understand. Don't let that deter you from getting to the industry. Deter you from leaving an organization because you're scared of a challenge. Because there's going to be challenges and expectations as you start in your career. So just continue to have a chart, write down your goals, create yearly goals for yourself in regards to your growth, in regards to your personal development. Just continue to make sure that you're just striving to be the best individual you can be professionally and also personally. So that's just one quick tip that I like to give.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would say once you set your goals, and we're talking about intentions, I would say as far as like what you can physically do, make sure that you have a fully updated LinkedIn with all of your work experience with a picture, because people are more likely to respond to people that have like a picture on their LinkedIn. So that's like very important. Also, like I said, if you want to get into technology and you haven't before, going to a coding camp or some type of non-traditional training school is great. Make sure that you're looking up and joining diversity job platforms, because a lot of companies will search on those. We use them. So, put yourself out there. Reach out to current employees that work at companies that you want to work at. They can end up being your mentor and helping you get into that company. I also, sometimes if you don't have the experience, but you want to work in tech, you can start off in a different field. Like maybe you can start off in recruiting as a recruiting coordinator. And then there's always a chance for you to move vertically into software engineering or whatever else you're interested in. And then last but not least, I always said, if the company can't train you, if they don't have what they need, the resources to train you, you can always go through an agency. Like, it'll be hard, they're gonna work you, but it's a good start.
I would say be inquisitive, ask questions, chase knowledge and your passion, and the rest will follow.
Yeah, I would say know yourself and support your own. That's what I would say. I'd say, you got to really understand who you are, understand what you want, understand the type of life you want to live, understand how you want to impact others positively. And then also never forget that once you get in the door, hold it open for other people that look like you, so that when you turn around, the next thing you know, you're not uncomfortable. Maybe they are, because they realize how much talent they've missed out on by being biased and not understanding the power of having a diverse team. So yeah, know yourself, understand yourself, and then support your own always, because they're doing it. And so, let's not miss that opportunity to uplift each other by sharing information and collaborating like most other cultures do, not only financially, but professionally.
Excellent. And I think that's a great note to end on. I want to, again, give a hearty thank you to all four of our panelists, Jonathan, Rashad, Blair, Brittany. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to hear from you and learn from you guys. Anyone who's listening, before you leave, before we end, please remember, go to the company booths to review job openings and submit your resume. And the way you do that is, once this session ends, click on the booths icon at the top of the Air Meet overall session, scroll over to the employer you're interested in to see some opportunities, submit your resume, network, find and create some opportunities. Thank you again to General Motors and Eaze for sending this top tier talent to serve as our panelists. Thank you to everyone who took the time to participate. And that closes us out. So thank you and happy Juneteenth. Hope you can take advantage of this day of celebration and service, especially since it's finally been recognized as a national holiday. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.